Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Tonight, we are going back to basics. A little bit of WPF, a little bit of C#, a little bit of XAML, a little bit of AI, and if we get around to it, I kind of want to circle back on that MCP server with XAML test. But first, a couple quick updates. I get myself out of the way. So, I have been mentioning the local .NET Conf event that we are doing here in Spokane at Intelitech that is coming up next Tuesday, January 13th. If you were watching this on YouTube, it's like today or tomorrow. So just a heads up, there's not a lot of time. It is free for online attendees. But if you are going to be in person, we do require registration. We're doing food and whatnot. And we are advertising it in two places, both out on Eventbrite. And I think I've been posting the other link as well to meetup.com. Meetup.com has a link to Eventbrite. So you need to register on Eventbrite if you're going to be in person. That is the system of record. So I realized, I think I was pointing the other one. If you look up .NET Conf, and then look at local events here. Yeah. And then obviously I search for Spokane, which is the easiest way to grab me. This link here does take you back to that same Eventbrite one. So either way, if you go through the .NET Conf website or you go through Meetup, just make sure that if you are signing up that you do it on Eventbrite. If you're online, it is free for online attendees. You just miss out on like some of the in-person networking stuff, but you do get to watch all of the sessions, and we will have somebody monitoring online questions and that sort of thing. So all of that will be there for online people. The presenters are myself, Ben Michaelis, Dan and Gareth, going through various things. Ben is going to be doing what's new in Visual Studio. Dan is focused on more of a machine learning, rebuilding models and otherwise. So even though this is .NET Conf, .NET Conf encompasses a little bit more than just not .NET. It's kind of the broader .NET ecosystem, as it were, because we have Aspire, we do Python stuff, we do ML stuff, we do Azure stuff. So it's yes, there's obviously .NET stuff in there, but it will be a little more than that. I will be doing .NET Aspire. My hope is to go from empty directory to published running application that we can use for Q&A before the end of the session. So that's my game plan. We're gonna see how it works. I think it's gonna be kind of cool. So I'm very excited for it. And then Gareth is actually a principal architect from Microsoft, talking through, I believe it's going to be Copilot extensibility points. I don't remember which Copilot this is, though. Might have to double check that. So, but regardless, it's going to be a great time. If you are at all interested, jump in. Would love to have you there. Okay, couple things really quick. I want to clear this PR because this is a very simple one. This was just somebody had left a comment saying, hey, your screenshots are out of date, and this is an updated set of screenshots. Part of why I want to get that MCP built is because I think I could leverage it to actually do these screenshots, which would be kind of slick. So we'll tag this in, but I think this is more. I don't really have a documentation thingy because it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm going to count it as wiki because it's going in a markdown file. And then I'm going to flag it as demo app because it is of the demo app. Then we'll just squash and merge. So it's a very simple change. Thank you, Corvins. As always, you rocked it. And then I think Nikolai's is done now too for review. We'll go through and double check it because he cleaned up a handful of things. Like most of us, people got busy around the holidays. Things went crazy. So yeah, we'll go through and review this. But what I wanted to look at is last time there was the DataGrid problem that was sent to me via Discord. And if anybody has been following that thread out there, yeah, trust and continue. I already looked at the code, but I looked on a different machine. So I put up a potential solution because we tried to manipulate the data grid into submission. It kind of worked. It didn't work great. And then I think hopefully intelligently backed up and went, you know what, maybe it's better, rather than trying to manipulate it at the view level, to manipulate it at the view model level and just bind appropriately, because at that point it made it a little bit easier to keep track of what we were doing. So the premise here is kind of the multi-cell edit that you would get in Excel, where we want to be editing one cell but be able to basically bulk apply that change to a number of cells based upon selection. That's the premise of what we're going for. So the original poster went back and forth, kind of took the suggestion that I had, blended a little bit of what he had, came back, and it wasn't quite perfect. He had a V2, and then did a little bit of a mix of his solution plus my solution and said, hey, you want to review this on stream? I was like, sure. I love it when people do that. So happy to do so. What is this thing complaining about? Oh, it just wants, so we'll just call this out. This is a very minor thing that the newer .NET SDKs have started flagging, is if you type your variable as iList, and then, but the concrete type is known to be array list, and this is private, it really wants to change your field to be array list, just as a small performance, emphasis on small performance improvement. So we're going to launch this guy here, and let's take a look at it. I don't think there's any tests, because this was just made from my, this was just made from my .NET template. So, which is fine. My .NET new templates do have a -- no test if anybody's using them and wants to kill them off. Okay, so I'm going to go select, and then I'm going to change this to kevin@email.com. And that worked. So one, the behavior worked exactly as expected. And if I realize, oh shoot, I made a mistake, it's not .com, it's .org. So it is slightly interesting here, because the binding is updating as I type, versus I think mine was updating on committed. So the important thing here is it works. So rule of thumb, make it work, make it right, make it fast. We have achieved step 1. So let's take a look at what this code actually does. So I'm going to start at the very top at the XAML and then just kind of walk my way down just to see what's different in here. So custom DataGrid class. Me personally, when I make custom DataGrid classes, I usually change this default, because in my opinion, auto-generate columns should have defaulted to false since the beginning, but it didn't. And anyway, user can delete rows false, add rows false. These are generally things that we turn off anyway, just because oftentimes we want to control these things rather than just kind of giving the willy-nilly ones. So let's see, pulls in the material design DataGrid style. And this is one, if you're actually doing a custom class inside of your project, there's workarounds for changing this so that you don't get bit by, so that you don't have to go through and add this style everywhere. And then let's see, we've got a selected cell changed event. So it's always interesting to me when I see something like this, because you've built a custom data grid. So why do we need code behind in our grid plus here? So what is this guy doing? Ah, this is my code. This is my code. So this is where I was going through. So our solution before was, we were iterating through all of the selected cells on the data grid when the selection changed. We were pulling back whatever columns they were there. We were kind of doing this hacky thing here, making an assumption that we could get the property name from the binding, which is fine if you're just doing a data grid text column. It may not be, this may not work as well if you're like, if you've got like fancy value converters or other templates or different columns. Like, so that was there. So that matches mine. Then let's go and take a look at this custom data grid. Okay, so we've got a data grid, preview left mouse button down. So hijacking some of the selections. So the only thing I don't like about this is that there is technically selection capabilities with the keyboard. For accessibility, like for your average user, this is probably perfectly fine, right? This is how like 99% of your users are going to do it. But there are other ways that it could happen. And even though we're like, well, who would use the keyboard for this rather than the mouse? It's like, well, sometimes people have their computers set up without just keyboard and mouse, right? Sometimes it's a touch screen, which in WPF, most touch events get converted down to pointer events, which get translated into these mouse events. So it's probably good, but it is worth calling out that there are a number of different ways people may end up interacting with it, and so it's usually good to handle them all. Okay, so we've got selected item cache. Chris, welcome. Good to see you. Welcome everyone from Chris's stream. Hopefully you had a good one, buddy. I feel like it's been a while since we chatted. I blame myself for that. I've canceled too many of our meetings. Robo, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Right now we are looking at a problem that was sent to me via Discord on a WPF app. It's functionally kind of trying to get the multi-edit thing from Excel. So you select multiple cells, chris@email.com, right? And it goes through and applies the edits to all of the cells in place. The original poster has a working solution, but was curious to have a code review on how he did, because he combined kind of a solution I put together with some work that he had done. So I see a couple things we might try to improve and take a look at, but nothing's currently jumping out at me. The other thing that I noticed kind of immediately out of the gate is whenever I see these null checks now, like modern C#, we can just do this instead. So the Elvis operator, as it's more affectionately known, because null propagation operator is way too many syllables to do, right? This guy here, it checks it for, if it's null, the left side of the expression returns null. Null is never greater than 1, therefore the whole thing returns false. You can kind of condense those null checks that are combined with other kind of equality and inequality checks down into one simple thing. And then we've got, it's interesting that we're doing, if the selected item is 1, I don't understand the 1 check here. This one confuses me. We might have to look at that. I don't really know why we're checking this. Restore them. Oh, I think this may be an artifact of doing the cache on the left mouse button down, if I was guessing. But we'll go through and do it. The other thing that's kind of interesting here, like normally this sort of setup would be ripe for multi-threaded problems with a contains then an add, because you can never with multi-threading you can never guarantee that after you've checked contains that the item wasn't immediately added or removed between these two calls. However, because we're inside of a UI event handler, we know that all of these are executed on the UI thread, and we're functionally single-threaded at that point. There's not really extra stuff in there as it goes. Let's see, preview key down. So this is now trying to handle the equivalent of the mouse side, only on the keyboard side. Checking for tab and enter, which is fine. The dispatcher surprises me. I would not expect us to actually need the dispatcher here, because this is normally your way of getting from a background thread back onto your UI thread. But you're on a preview key down, and again, it's a UI event handler, so it should only ever be possible to invoke this from the UI thread. So these begin invokes are probably overkill, unless the intent is to defer them. And the fact that there's a dispatcher priority set here is probably an indication that the idea is to be deferred. Effectively, by putting it on a begin invoke, what this does is it says, well, we're going to let this event finish executing, and then with priority level 5, then come back and make this check, which may be the intended purpose here. Because it's current item not equal to null. And then if our reference isn't there, so it's effectively just throwing us straight into the edit modes right out the gate. Okay, cool. Alphatraz, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Okay, makes sense. Let's see. Was there anything in the view model that got changed? So simple person object. People have names, emails, phone numbers, addresses. Huzzah. Copilot wrote us a bunch of dummy data because it's really great at making stuff up. So, you know, if the AI is going to be good at lying and making stuff up, we might as well use it to our advantage. And then still the to-dos, still the property things in here. So overall, I don't think this solution is that bad. The improvements here are just around to the event handlers, which I kind of expected to need to be there. This extra column here. So the original poster commented that the whole point of this column here is an easier way to multi-select, which I get, right? They're effectively trying to leave a handle on the left side. I suppose if that's the UX you're going for, might as well work, right? And then if I go here and click in, and this is why that extra mouse handler is there, is to maintain that selection. And so, you know, 1, 2, 3 Main Street, bonus points for spelling. And then tab, 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 tab. Okay. I mean, it certainly works. There's nothing wrong with this. I think there's only a couple small things I might put in as suggestions. Okay, so suggestion 1. If we go and look at, and I think we'll see it, let me just pop the material design project open real quick. Because whenever I see code that looks kind of like this, where you end up doing this style, there's a couple ways you can go through and solve this, because it's not uncommon to need to subclass a UI control because you want to do something custom for some interaction you want in your app. Great, fine, right. Make a derived class, you're off to the races, good to go. But when you do that, you end up then breaking the default styling. And what I mean by that is inside the material design project, if I go down here, and I go to themes, and I go and I grab material design 3 defaults. Not blind, am I? There it is. Okay, just can't see. These defaults, and just to bring it all the way back around. So the reason I'm focused on the defaults is because this resource dictionary in the app.xaml references 3 defaults, right? So it's not, there's nothing magical. This is the linkage back in. All right, so all of these ones down here, there's these implicit styles that say, hey, every button in my app should have the material design raised button style. Every check or combo box gets the combo box style, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And we put in all of these defaults for all of the built-in WPF controls that we have styles for, which is, I think, nearly all of them, at least everything that normal people use. Rich text box being mostly there, depends on what you're doing. There's a handful of like nested controls that I don't think we fully style out, but we've got most of what anybody's going to use, and the stuff that we don't usually is hard to tell. But the moment you do a derived class, these target types aren't like, hey, every button and every derived class from button. It is literally, is the thing button? If no, okay, this doesn't apply. Right? The other one that happens is with custom controls. And so if we take a look at, I think dialog host is probably a good example. We could actually probably do it with Ripple too, or similar. But there's this guy right here, this default style key property. And this is what actually exists in those base classes inside the WPF controls that actually determines how those implicit styles work. So the reason it's not looking at the type per se to know what key to grab the implicit style from, though that is the default and what you kind of expect most of the time. If you make a derived class, what you probably want to do is actually set this default style key property to match a key that you want. So there's kind of 2 ways to go about doing this. So in this app here, option 1 that I would often tell people to do is 1, make your own resource dictionary. And I'm going to do it in line here, but easily pull this out into its own file if you'd like. Style, target type, and then in this case, I would end up doing the custom data grid, and then target type, style. Stop it. My autocomplete is failing me. I'm just gonna steal DataGrid. I'm just gonna grab this guy here, right, and paste him in. The difference being is that we don't want DataGrid. We want it to be our own custom type, and our own custom type, we need a namespace. And so we will do XML namespace, and he put it under control. So by convention, we name it the same way, just because sanity reasons. And now we end up saying, okay, all of our custom data grids will end up getting the material design styling, and then we can delete this line here, right? So that's a fairly common one to want to go through and do. The other thing that you can do is you can go through and change it up so that there is a different, ooh, might have to check something. That broke styling. And I'm wondering if I broke styling by probably pulling in something wacky. We'll check that in a moment. The other way of going through and doing this, and probably the way that I would more likely go through and do this, is I take that same override for the style key down here. And because you own the type, what we can do is we can come into our custom data grid, create a static constructor. Oh, dear heavens. Copilot, stop showing off. You're spoiling the ending. Why must you ruin? I'm going to have to turn you off. Note to self, turn Copilot off before next week's presentation. Actually, while we've got a few people here, slight side note and shameless self-promotion. If people are interested, the Microsoft.NET Conf, we have a local event that we are doing here in Spokane next Tuesday. If anybody happens to be in Eastern Washington or thereabouts, we have a small fee because we're doing food and whatnot for in-person. But if you are remote, it is totally free. So you can check out the itinerary. It's .NET Aspire, Machine Learning, Visual Studio 2026, and then Copilot Extensibility. That's kind of if you want the 10-second view of what it is. But if you are interested, please feel free to sign up. In-person seating is limited, but I don't think we are in that big of a risk of filling all the way up. But we have been plugging it a little harder this week, so I don't know. We'll see. But if people are just interested online and that sounds interesting to you, sign up. You'll get a live streaming link and you're off to the races. Okay. So overriding the default style key metadata, and then you can technically dial these guys down to say, well, actually, what we're going to do is we are going to set the type metadata equal to the type of data grid. And I believe this is all it takes to have it fall back. Well, it fell back, but it fell back incorrectly, just like the other one. Did I not delete the app.xaml stuff? I did the same thing twice. I'm actually, I might have to look at this real quick. I might have to check and see, because now it's bothering me that I don't like it when things don't work the way that I think that they do work. Oh, good. So I've broken something with all the code commented out. It does the same thing. Wonderful. So I broke something else, and those are just circumstantial. Let's see. What's your opinion on a grid in WPF that is high performance for 100 plus column tables with hundreds of thousands, millions of rows, also open source? DataGrid is failing me, and I can't use third party unless it's open source. GPT is telling me to use a custom built one. Ooh. So I guess first question, where is the main DataGrid failing you? So I will warn you of this. DataGrid in WPF, I think, is the most complicated of all of the built-in controls. It is powerful, and it's made, it was built to look easy, but it is a Tharby Dragon situation, scrolling. So the one area I would tell you to look at, WPF, performance, virtualization. I would tell you to make sure that you haven't accidentally killed off virtualization of the data grid, because that is where it will get you. Now, you said 100 plus columns, virtualization for days. Okay, because I'm wondering if because the data grid is virtualized in the vertical scrolling, but I don't think it is for your columns. So it could be, yeah, not inside stack panels and stuff. Okay, great. So if you've already looked at this, so step one, I would say, is looking in to make sure that it is actually virtualized. An easy way to check it too is, I don't know if you're familiar with the Snoop tool. I'll just grab it real quick. Right. So if I grab Snoop and bring it over here, when Googling for it, make sure to put WPF on the end, or you get things that are not related to the tool. But it's this guy here. So if you haven't seen it, this, in my opinion, is a required tool for all WPF development. The built-in stuff to Visual Studio is okay. It does not hold a candle to Snoop. But specifically, the things to look at, so once you get connected, cursor over what you want, Control-Shift zeros all the way in, is making sure that you only have roughly visible amount of data is part of your visual tree. Because often when your scrolling performance fails, it's because something has broken, and this is how you can actually prove that virtualization is working, because you shouldn't see tons of items here. If virtualization is there, you should see roughly equal to what's on the screen plus like 3 or 4. It depends a little bit, but you should see something that's, orders of magnitude less than what your total set is. If that's not the case, that would go there. As far as ones to build, it is real difficult. Hey, Bamfrey, welcome. So I have a set of videos I will go through and show of, let's see. Let me grab them real quick. Of building out a custom tree view that that is based largely on, if we open up the Test Explorer in Visual Studio, this looks like a tree. It's not actually a tree. It's a list view that's made to act like one. So it virtualizes the whole way through. And yeah, and Victor's comment there too of 100 plus columns is probably a lot to slam in when each item rolls in. Yeah, because I've seen performance tank even without DataGrid, where somebody just loaded up a bunch of text boxes, and it can be heavy. Building your own, you're going to end up probably having to fight most of those same virtualization problems anyway, and it will be complicated. Let's see, tree list view. Sorry, I can't spell. Tree list view. Let's spell it with the right letters this time. Yeah. So this is the magical query that you are looking for. Oh, it's my code you've been working on from Discord. Hey, welcome, Bamfrey. Good to have you. So I don't know if you caught my initial assessment of your solution. Personally, I think it's just fine. If this is the UX interaction that you're going for, there's only minor little nitpicks in the code here that is actually that's actually going on. So there's not a whole lot here. But Alphatrez, yeah, so I'm remaking a tool that's not really supported anymore. It was written using MFA and OPX, so trying to compete with that for performance. Yeah. Out of curiosity, so oftentimes I see people use data grids as a quick band-aid to avoid having to build like custom UIs for editing different things. In a lot of cases, I have pushed people away from data grids because even though they're very powerful, they're more for like admin level interfaces, not like consumer level interfaces, in my opinion. So depending on what you're building, if your target user base is more like your average user, it may not be the right solution for you. If your target audience is maybe like admin type people or more advanced users, maybe it's okay. But yeah, that is going to be a ton of data. Hey, Maori. Good to see you. Yeah, so targets for developers, BSAs. Okay. Yeah, no, Banfrey, don't worry about it. Like I said, the short version is there's not a. I think your solution is perfectly fine. I was gonna try to figure out why I've messed up the styling here. In just a second because I don't understand why I'm getting these colorings. So I'm gonna try to fix that because I didn't think I've changed anything, but we'll circle back to that in a moment. But yeah, as Alphatraz, I don't know of good open source ones that are out there that are going to compete with this. There are a handful of paid ones that you could evaluate. I mean, Telerik's got one. Um, I I have a very strong love-hate relationship with Telerik. There's plenty of clients I know that use it because they needed an enterprise solution and they wanted something standardized. Great, fine, whatever. But I've also worked with Telerik enough to where I typically bump into problems. Like I tell people their controls are great right up until you need to do something highly customized with them. And then you find all the areas where they hard-coded stuff and your world just ends. And so it's really frustrating. I'm not aware of like a better open source DataGrid. And honestly, if you're in the material design library, the one we have is actually probably slightly worse performance than the built-in the default themed one from WPF because we add enough extra stuff to the visual tree that I would suspect that extra overload probably gives you a slightly degraded performance at the cost of it looks pretty. It's a slight trade on performance. Let's see, implemented Sync Fusion, it worked really well, but then would expect because of open source, users would need to get their own key. That's a... I got it. Because you what am I typing in? Hang on. Right, because you're producing an open source app, and so therefore you need something that's actually free versus otherwise. I thought maybe I'm wrong. I might be getting this mixed up with their Maui controls because Sync Fusion has done quite a bit of Maui based ones. I occasionally, and it may be worth poking on their site. Like I said, I might be getting their pricing model for their Maui controls confused with WPF, but some of them do offer open source licenses to work around that problem. Not always. So yeah, and that certainly could be. Though oftentimes you may go back and double check. Again, not a lawyer. Take this with a grain of salt. But oftentimes the keys are needed for compilation, not for execution. And so, again, don't quote me on this. But you may double check and see who needs the key, the person compiling the code or the person running the code, because those aren't always the same thing. I do know that some control libraries, they try to build based upon your user base, which the whole idea of that is, if this is a big app, right, we want to be paid more for it because they assume that if there's a lot of users, you've made a lot of money, therefore we want a cut of that. I think that's foolish and not the way that it should be done, but that's just me. Yeah, for what it's worth. WinUI DataGrid any faster than the WPF one. So the WinUI stuff in general will probably, from a performance perspective, outperform WPF. The advantage of WinUI is they rewrote the entire rendering stack. And so a lot of the extra cruft that's in there. Now, with that said, when you start playing around, yeah, no problem, Alphatrez. When you start playing around with WinUI, my experience with it is faster and nicer, but you kind of start to hit. It feels like bleeding edge issues on occasion, where because WPF has been around for literal decades, and has had very few breaking changes, it is very rock solid, right? Not to say there's no breaking changes, emphasis .NET 10 with internal attached properties. I'm not bitter. There have been a handful of those things, but more often than not, it's been very performant. So with WPF, you get the advantage of a wealth of material that's been built out over decades, documentation that's built out over decades, lots of experience, battle tested, etc. Whereas WinUI, specifically WinUI 3, I will clarify, because there's WinUI 2 as well, which I believe is deprecated at this point. Because let's see if I can get my memory right. It was UWP, WinUI 2, WinUI 3, I believe is the order of operations. And every time people go, oh, this is going to be the WPF killer, and I'm not holding my breath. I'm not holding my breath. But in general, WinUI, especially with like the default styling and whatnot, does tend to perform better than WPF. They've got smoother animations because they've got a very different rendering stack. They take advantage of newer Windows APIs and a lot of simpler stuff that WPF, people always talk about, oh, well, why don't you go fix these things in WPF? It's like, well, some things that we want to fix would be breaking changes, and there's way too much code out there written against WPF. Microsoft isn't going to do a breaking change that's going to anger large corporations that have, millions of lines of code of this stuff. So, like, breaking changes occasionally happen, but they're not going to be vast sweeping ones. The one of the key ones that I know right off the gate is things like generics, because WPF was being built at the same time C# generics were being built. So WPF doesn't have generics because they didn't exist at the time WPF launched. And so things like all of our dependency properties with values getting boxed, and you'll see, like, if you look at the WPF code base, you'll see like boxed booleans and boxed integers existing in the code base because they only want to pay that boxing cost once, which was one of the big advantages of generics, is you can avoid having to box value types. Well, WPF doesn't have that. Dependency property is probably never getting a generic on top of it because it would be a source breaking change. And so it's like, yeah, I want them to add it, and I would love it. That's kind of one of the things that I love about Avalonia, is it feels WPF-y like, but updated to be able to take advantage of some of this newer stuff. Because it was built later, it has all of the advantages of being built with, a couple decades of WPF experience behind it. And a lot of the engineers on the Avalonia team came from old Xamarin, came from some of those old Microsoft teams, and so they had all of that experience going into it. And so it turns out when you can rebuild it with all that experience, you can do a pretty good job, and they've been kicking butt recently. So okay, back to this styling thing. I think I am back into exactly the same starting state I was. I'm just going to rebuild for kicks and giggles here real quick to make sure. Oh, this is the tests. I'm just going to unload the test project. I don't want to think about tests. Right. Just going to reload rebuild. And then I want to see what I broke. Because one of the only things I was going to comment on this Banfree was the this guy here. I guess that's the only change I have left, is this styling in here. Here we go. Interesting. Okay, so that styling is what's breaking me. Why is that breaking me? Why is that breaking me? Because the suggestion here, and I was doing it up at the app level, which I'm now realizing might actually be my problem, is rather than going through, like, and you may have already done this inside of your app, is anytime I do a custom control like this, I immediately am looking to avoid having to always specify the style just because I subclass something. Right, so target type, controls, custom data grid. Pilot, stop helping me. You're not helping. Based on static resource, zero design data grid, boom. And then we axe this guy out of here. I will say I do your update source trigger on property change confuse. Yeah, okay, so that guy that fixed it there. So it's because I'm declaring them at the app level, I have to be careful about order of operations because the order of being merged in is going to matter. And that's going to make a difference for me. Got it. So if you go through and do the implicit style here or otherwise when you link it in, then you don't get bit by that. I am more curious on why this didn't work for me. Because I would have expected this to pick it up. Override metadata for type and set it to a metadata key of DataGrid. So I kind of expected this to work where in the custom DataGrid, you point the style key at the base class. That way it picks up the styling of the base class. And then you don't need to do any of that. Because oftentimes I find that when I am subclassing a control, I'm doing it just so that I can do something like this where I add in extra functionality. Oh, I guess, Banfree, there is one thing I did go through and do. I made a small null propagation tweak right here. Again, very minor things, but ultimately this kind of makes sense. And I think some of this comes down to if this is the UX that you're looking for, I think you've done just fine implementing it. Right? And then the little select all header, which I assume is what you were going for up here. But I guess that's hidden on the material design one. And I do not understand why this isn't picking it up. Why does this not cause it to use a different style key? Why does that not do it? I really expected that to do the same thing of changing the metadata of the target type be the framework property metadata of DataGrid. I expected it to override the default of, hey, give me my current type. But clearly that is not what is happening here. Because it is not then matching. Let's see. Assembly, theme info. Jurisdiction location. Well, we can try it, Hessen. We can certainly try it. Because I'm trying to remember why. Dictionaries is just an assembly that defines the types being themed. See, and I'm not entirely sure this is. I do suspect it is something of this nature. What is it? Why is build failing? Build succeed. Rebuild fail. Oh, what? Huh? Did I break something by putting it right on top of my view model? Or my custom data grid? Interesting. Because but you may be correct that because the theme is coming through here, in that case, it may be better just to simply do it like this and call it a day. Because the other thing you can do is you can actually then set up your, if you have your own styles or otherwise in here, that may end up being cleaner. Because this then properly renders. But again, Banfree, I see zero problem with the way you've set this up. I personally think it's rather nice. So, cool. Okay. I'm going to close that down unless there's other questions. But if anybody wants to poke at it, it is in the Discord general chat. So feel free to grab it and pull it down. Let me grab here. I was going to check out because, like I said, I believe believe Nikolai actually finished this up over break because I saw several pushes from him come in. And I believe he addressed everything, but let me check because he usually keeps a running checklist up here. Yeah, so the only question was around, I think, the UI tests and because I was doing MCP magic, but I think the rest of this is perfectly fine. The question is, do we want to do the MCP bits? Because because you can see the tests here set them up, but your act and assert portions are just completely empty. There was one thing I was contemplating doing as well. So right around the end of the year, we converted everything over to using TUnit. And TUnit, let's see, it's using the assembly info when creating custom control project. And that makes the default key style proper. Thank you, Hessen. No, not discussions. I want docs. Started. Take me to your docs. There was I was playing around with more TUnit stuff, and the author just Thomas Hurst, don't remember, Tom Longhurst. There's a number of kind of cool features that got added that got me a little excited about some of the TUnit stuff. So one, there's this depends on attribute. And at the time I was working on doing UI testing where it's not too like when you do UI tests and you wrap it in a regular unit test framework, you can't really apply unit testing practices to like integration and UI test level stuff because they're kind of fundamentally different, right? Unit tests, you want small, isolated, fast, repeatable, all that kind of stuff. Whereas integration tests, there's probably standing up some data and doing login and those types of things where it's like, well, there's kind of a little bit more of a flow here to it. This depends on attribute is really slick. The one thing I was unhappy about with it is if you execute your test with a filter and you filter down to a single test and that test has a depends on, the depends on test doesn't get executed because it's outside of the filter. And that doesn't sound like a common use case until you realize that when you right click on a test inside of the test explorer, that's exactly what it does, is runs with a filter. It was like, oh, so close, so close. It was almost there. But I then also discovered that there was, where is it? I'm looking for, there's probably under extensibility. There's additional fun things where you can specify test executors, where you can go through, and I was really excited about this because I saw it and I was like, I know exactly what I'm going to do with this. Those are the hooks. Where did he? There was a sample he had showing the executors, because it lets you wrap. He did one that was like doing logging. Oh, it's probably right here underneath. No, that's logging. Oh, where is the extension stuff that he had? He had a really cool sample, and I was thrilled to death when I saw it. Let's see, API reference. Maybe it is under executors, and I'm just sorry. I'm looking at this right build site here. Hang on. Dark mode. Oh, my world's happy again. Okay. Was it down in one of these where he was specifying some optional bits? The other thing that you can leverage these for, thank you for your review. It's really helpful. Yeah, no problem. I enjoy doing those things, especially when people aren't too stressed on a timeline. Like sometimes people are like, oh, hey, can you review this? I need it done by tomorrow. It's like, no, but when people are kind of open-ended and flexible on timelines, I love doing it. But you can actually have TUnit generate tests as part of a test. So you can have more tests added to the test suite while the thing is executing. It is amazing, right? And that's the the test variants and dynamic testing of being able to kind of group these things together, which this type of thing I don't think you get in a lot of other testing frameworks. Like TUnit is moving fast and adding a lot of really, really cool features. So I'm happy that I was hoping that when we converted to TUnit, we were going to see a huge performance gain because it uses the new Microsoft testing platform, MTP. It's source generated, so there's not a lot of reflection, should be faster. And we ran it and the numbers were like, not like negligible performance, like maybe a little faster, maybe, but ultimately what it proved is that the slow part of the test suite for the material design project wasn't the testing framework. It made up a negligible impact. It was like, okay, fine, right? Like I get it. A lot of my tests are doing UI level testing, the starting of the app, opening a process, investigating the UI. That's the slow part, not the testing framework to trigger that. Okay, fine. So I'm flexible for time. Awesome. Yeah, and like I said, I'm always happy to do it, and I really appreciate you putting together a sample because that's often easiest for me when somebody's got a sample that they've put together. Like that is pure gold. Let's see. There is one of these down here. Yeah, so test executor. So in this case, he's got a sample of doing a test executor where it's you grab a hold of the database, begin transaction, and then at the end, go ahead and roll it back, right? Something very simple that you want happening on all of your database tests, which is really slick. I saw this and I immediately thought, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to come into my XAML test project where I've got all of these UI tests where what I really, really, really want to do is on a test failure, I would really like to deal with this test recorder problem, right? That is exactly what I want. Exactly what I want. I'm like XAML test is written test framework agnostic, but I am seriously tempted to go through and build a TUnit derivative package that adds in some fancy test executors and whatnot, because this level of integration is exactly what I want. Like, this is cool. So let's actually do that real quick, because my opinion, one second, I think I'm in the wrong place. I am on the wrong project. So what happens when I don't switch my stuff around? You back. Everybody close your eyes for a second. Okay, so we got this. Let's see here. These are the MCP things, so I'm going to stash this for the moment because I do kind of want to keep this. And actually, I probably want to pull up on the latest bit, and then let's pop and restash so it's in the right place. Okay, and then we're going to go here, and then let's see. TUnit improvement, because I think we can do something really, really slick here. So what I would love to have happen is I would love this test recorder to fire off in all of these cases. And then more importantly, I would love it if it would go through and do a, because the recorder is the one that has the screenshot. So it can just arbitrarily save a screenshot. And oftentimes what we do, like, we still want this thing in here, but we don't need it. Like, most of the time we capture a screenshot because the test fails. And that's actually what this recorder success guy is doing, is it's saying, okay, well, let's go through and let's, if this guy gets disposed of, because this is what he's watching for, is on his display, and this is decompiled, so it's a little uglier than normal, but he watches for his dispose method, and if the success flag isn't set, then he automatically saves a screenshot. Great. It's kind of cool, but it also requires you to remember that you have to start your test with this and end your test with this. right? I want this at the beginning of every test, and I want this at the end of every test. The only thing that is mildly interesting about this is this app instance here, because this app instance gets set up down in my test base class as part of the initialization. So and this app instance is actually the thing that's starting the remote WPF process. So it is one of the slow parts of my entire test suite. It's calling start process. It's setting up a gRPC connection between the unit test running process and that remote WPF process so that it can communicate back and forth and do manipulation and that kind of thing. So it does all kinds of fancy stuff, and it'll even attach Visual Studio's debugger to it if it detects it, because I'm lazy, and that was cool. So what I think we want to end up doing, and then this parallel limit just limits how many of these guys could run in parallel, because we do mouse level interaction, it is not really possible to have two tests that run in parallel with each other. So the only tests that can realistically run in parallel are two that don't start windows, which almost all of these do. Because even if one test doesn't need the cursor, if it opens a window on top of the running test window, that mouse click doesn't make it all the way through, and then you get bit. So it's not like the web UI frameworks where it simulates mouse clicks, feeding them in. This thing actually moves the cursor and does a system level click. So it actually behaves exactly like a user's interaction, which is good, but it also, by definition, means it then has to go slow. So this is the part here that I think we can do better on. So now that we have this, so let's do public class XAML test executor. I test executor. And then the nice part is a lot of these TUnits extension points, you can define them either at a class level or oftentimes a test level or an assembly level. So you can kind of control where those things go. Dead Breadcrumbs, good evening. Welcome in. Yeah, so if people haven't seen it, I think new projects that I start, I will probably be defaulting to TUnit as my testing framework. I think so. When I first went to it, there's a handful of things about it that leave me on the fence, where I'm like, I don't know if I like that. Like, I'm not sure. I'm still not sure I like having to await every single one of my asserts. But you don't have to use TUnit's assertions, right? You can bring in your own assertion library if you like fluent assertions or otherwise, right? Like, that's not necessarily part of TUnit. So I like that. I like it has quite a few analyzers. There's a handful of weird things, like if you put your test in a base class, you have to put an attribute on the derived class to tell it to inherit those. And I often forget it, but there's an analyzer flagging me every time I forget it. So it's like, well, that's annoying, but at least it's annoying in a way where I'm not going to accidentally screw up. So there's a handful of those things that's like, it's kind of nice. It really is kind of nice. Like XUnit v3 is my other one where it's like, could go that way as well. We'll see. Not sold, but boy, I'm real close to just all in on it. Okay, so all of this stuff here, block body, and then I'm just going to blindly steal his sample here for the moment. And then go here. So the other cool thing that you can do is, what is your problem? Oh, you need to be decorated async, and I need to spell async with an N. This test context lets you flow data up and down, because TUnit also exposes the concept of a test session, which exists beyond an assembly. So if a session is started and there's multiple test assemblies at play, you can have kind of that session level, then the assembly level, then the class level, then the test level. So it's really nice to be able to share contacts back and forth. This get service, I assume, is just his attempt at a showing how things could potentially go. And then down here, what I think I want to do is I want to grab, let's just steal one of these things here, right? Is I want to grab this, and I want to grab, stop it, stop helping me. Right. Oh, it's on the other screen. That's why I'm confused. Oh, and I didn't get the copy. Okay. Copy. Paste. Thank you. Okay. So we want to create the recorder here, but we want the recorder to be done. In order for the recorder to exist, it needs an app. And I think what we can do is we can actually cheat down here. Because, oh, I don't want that. I want my test space. Because the test space purpose down here is initialize a sync. And I think what I can actually get away with changing this out. Because I think we can float this thing through the context. I think is my thought here. Because I was doing some UI testing and it worked rather well. So I think context has the output on it. Yeah, it has the output writer. So log message just becomes write line. That just goes there. We're going to do this. Get rid of that for the moment. That gets us into here. And then I think we can just do recorder dot success and then move on. And actually, I don't even need the try catch anymore. I can just do this. The only thing that doesn't work here is this is now getting two different apps. And so I think if we're going to spin the app this way, do I not leave myself? I was hoping, again, I can go and rebuild XAML test however we need. I was just hoping that there was a way to do this without necessarily starting it all up front. Do I only leave myself the start function? Oh, because in this case, IApp is the exposed thing and the actual implementation is hidden away from me. Because this app down here is actually internal app, not actual app. Ah, that's why. That is 100% why. But this guy only cares about. I'm just trying to think if I should go rebuild this or if I should change this to work. Because in this context here, I know the test class, don't I? Yeah, I see class context. That class hook context. Assembly context. So I do have the context all the way up. But do I have the instance of the test is my question. Test details. Do you want to grab that? Sorry. Forgot to open my stuff ahead of time. Oh, I've got a shortcut. And if I go manager, back to Sorry, I'm just checking this link. This my Java code is there. Oh, I see now. I see. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. Wait a minute. Don't click on that. And then there we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I think we can just shove this thing into the context and then grab it further down. Because the initialize async, I believe, ends up with the same test context. And I believe, well, let's just test. Because I think we can just do test context here. And then this will grab our extra little bit. So that goes there. I was just trying to see if I actually had the instance of the class, because if I had the instance, that would save me a great deal of pain. And so, you know what? Let's just grab it right here and take a look, because I can find out really quick. So let's go here. Test executor. Stop it. And then we will do XAML test executor. Then we will debug this test, and then we should see it hit our executor right at the beginning, and then we'll just look at this context, because if I can find the instance of the class and just type check it against test base, that would save me a lot of pain and suffering. Huh? Oh. Oh. Interesting. I didn't realize we were okay. Did I do this? Dispose async, initialize async. That's... I realize the intent here of what it's doing, but so in general, I have a belief that you shouldn't call dispose or dispose async manually. If there's shared logic you need from your dispose method, put that in a different method and have your dispose and the other method both call it. In my opinion, that's a cleaner approach. Okay, well, now it builds. Because if we have the type, what I might do is just expose the setter for the app property and go that route. Okay, so what do we got? What do we got here? I sort of expected in like test details, perhaps. Class instance. Oh, look at that. You mean the thing called class instance might actually contain an instance of the class? Duh. Idiot. Okay, so turns out reading OP. Let's see. Context, test details, class instance is test base. Stop it. So if you are a test base, right? We can now do the things. Right? So in here, and actually maybe what we'll do is we'll just surround the whole thing and then just go else. Honestly, we could probably just throw in the else case, because maybe not. Because I think what I want to do is be able to define this executor at the assembly level, and we can just await action. Like it's less code to support everything than it is to throw an exception. So we'll go with the I'm lazy. And then what I kind of want to do is something like test base dot app gets app. And obviously it's going to be unhappy because it's going to say, you can't assign it, you're a bad person. And that's okay. So I think what we do is we change this from protected to public. And then I think down here, we're just going to go Question mark, question mark. And that's it. That is it. And actually, we can then go a step further. We can take this a step further. Because we have the test base here, we can actually go test base. Because test base has the property for attached debugger. We'll just go public. Right? And so now why do I keep clicking off? I keep forgetting I'm just scrolling up, but I need to put it in two separate things. So I can just do that and get a hold of it. And that gets me all the way into there. And now I should automatically get a recorder created, shared app instance, and then it appropriately shut down at the end. I think what we can do, because test base is cleaning it up as well, I'm kind of wondering if I want to not do it with a base class. Like this whole base class here was because this is the XUnit style of doing this kind of thing. And I still think the base class is valuable, but I'm wondering if this part is valuable or not. Or if I want to just take this whole thing away. Because if I just do this, like we can just do this here. Right? And now we don't need to do anything funky. I kind of like this better. Because this now spins this up. Yeah, I kind of like this better. Because if it's a test base, which means we don't, I can just straight delete these. Done. Like, I don't need any of those. So that just goes away and it gets cleaned up. I'm liking this a lot better. Let's see, move that there. And then I think we can just go through what I want to do is this. Do you not support assembly level test? You should. I just need to fix my qualifiers. Right? So that goes there. And actually, I think what we end up doing is we take this out and we go and put it over in our new file. And we just do it up here. Right? I think that's a cleaner approach. JC, welcome. Happy New Year to you as well. We are currently exploring the wonderfulness that is TUnit and making my unit testing simpler by deleting lots of code. Because now I don't need to do any of this. All of this just goes away. Right? I no longer need to access this at all. Right? Every instance of recorder just dies. Now, the only thing I might want to do is I might want to expose it in the test context. Right? So what I might want to end up doing is not null. Public test recorder. Let's see, test recorder, and do this. Because I think what I want to actually do here is test base, test recorder gets, oh, I got to do it down here. Recorder. Right, and we can do this. I don't see any. Just so that it's all set up ahead of time. And then it cleans up everything ahead of time. Like everything is just wrapped up in little using blocks. And it's all just purdy. And now every test automatically gets this without me needing to remember to add those lines in. This one's an exception case. Right? Because like none of these tests were doing any of that. Which is kind of annoying. Because those are all ones that didn't have it. Um, let's see, Hessen, from the last stream, did you find any open source 3D model viewer for Avalonia that is truly cross-platform? I did not. I'm currently torn between a couple of choices. One, there is the Avalonia app for the Enigma machine that Izzy and I are building. There's a long lead time before that's actually due. So part of me is tempted to hold out to see if that other engineer actually builds out the Avalonia port for his library. That's kind of one of the ones where I'm like, that would be convenient. There's another option of just biting the bullet, and if all I care about is cross-platform, I'm not tied to Avalonia, and we haven't done much UI work in the app yet, so I'm not locked in there. And something like a Unity could be an option as well, because at the end of the day, I need it to run cross-platform. I'm a .NET person, so I'm immediately looking for .NET-y solutions. And if I need the fancy 3D stuff, like Unity is a big hammer for a very small problem, but it would 100% work. My big limitation there is my lack of experience with Unity. So there's a little bit of, well, how important is that? Do I need it? Maybe, I don't know, possibly. So it's a little bit of that where I might go that route, but we'll see. We will see. Okay. So let's see, reset up the app. The thing I don't like about this is we were previously calling dispose and reinitialize. I don't know why we were doing this. I mean, I kind of know why, because this thing loads up theme dictionaries at the application level, and we were scrapping them. Bundle theme uses the same colors as XAML resources. We are going to come back to this, because I don't want to think about this at the moment. And I am going to throw new exception to do. I'm going to just put that in. Yeah, sure, Copilot, fine. We can put that as the message. So yeah, so I'm a little torn on what to do about that. Because it is one of those where it's and I've seen samples where people have gotten some basic theme viewer stuff working in Avalonia. Checking real quick. Victor still shows in the stream, so maybe he's there and he can comment on some of the stuff that he's done, because he's got some very simple examples of loading some models in, which might be good enough as well, right? Like that is another option for going through and doing. Victor, did you ever send me that demo app that you showed me? The little handlebars thingy-mabobber? Because I may want to go back through that again. Oh, no, I didn't. If you have it, if it's open source, pop it in the chat. If it's not, send it to me. Because you didn't catch last stream, but we went through and did a lot of cleanup around, or I shouldn't say cleanup. We went and played around with a couple 3D viewers inside Avalonia to try to get them working well enough for what we needed, and was not overly thrilled with any of the... We didn't get a full solution, I'll put it that way. So we just delete this, delete all the things. All the things go bye-bye. And this will make me very, very, very happy. And then I want to go through and also change out, like we should do a test with a fail just to make sure we still get the screenshot as we expect. And then one that passes. And then I think I'll be very thrilled with this. Let's see. Control each. Oh, that's it. Let's go actually Control Shift F. Recorder dot. I usually do a find next just to make sure I'm getting the right thing. Let's see here. And then we want to torch it. So I'm just thinking about this. I'm going to put this on my copy buffer because that's actually going to torch it in one place too many. Yeah, so there's 168 of them. But the one place where I want it is right there. So that one I need. And then this line here is going to be almost the same. But I think what I can do is I can just do capital and match case. And then that should get all of those. And then we should be able to torch all of those. And hopefully, 167. So one short. Now there may be... The one thing we might have is compilation errors related to... Yeah, I thought there was a few places where we actually did manual screenshot captures. Because you can do a screenshot mid-run, and as long as you give it a prefix to disambiguate, it'll work. Now, why do you not have... Kind of want to clean all those up. Actually, let's do this. Yes. Yes. Okay. So I want to do one thing slightly differently here. So if I do this match case, use regular expressions, and then I come in here and I do this and this, I can pick up let's see, R optional, pick up the new line character, and any amount of arbitrary white space before the end of the line. So I think this still matches. And then if I do a replace next, that should... Oh, it didn't quite... Why is it picking... Because it's ending up replacing that with empty string and bringing that forward. Because my white space match is too aggressive. Because it's trying to grab... It's as greedy as possible. And you make things not greedy with that, I think. Right? Let's see. Place next. Better. Not quite what I want because I want it to take out new line. Kind of want to allow it to grab multiple new... Oh, did it drop that? Oh, give it back to me. New line... Match multiple, I think. One or more. So if I do a replace here, I think that gets me... Remove the white space after the open curly. Let's see. Maybe I'm missing. White space after open curly. I'll put this here so I can keep an eye on it. Because I shouldn't have... There should be no white space there because I have white space visible on so I can see what's actually in the file itself. And I'm missing something simple. Beginning of line. Oh, it's this space here that's biting me. Ah, thank you, thank you, thank you. So something like that is actually what I want to be grabbing to be able to pick that up. Got it, got it, got it, got it, got it, got it. So that, okay. And then when I replace next, there we go. Now replace all. Okay. That cleans that out. Yeah. And then we're going to do this same thing here. Except for we're going to do it like that. Find next. And go here. Not find. Why are you thinking? What? Huh? Why is fine failing? Why is fine failing me? Okay. Yeah, I get that you timed out. Fine next. Oh, because I did not. Okay. It's because I didn't properly escape the parens. There we go. So it picks that up, goes through, grabs it. If I do a replace, that looks better. Replace all. And then the one place we have to go put it back is over in our executor because it's going to torch it there. Let's see here. There. That we just need that one back there, and then we should have a whole massive metric ton of them. And then split button tests. We just have this guy here. Oh, why did I not get? I need that to go like that. You should have it in your base class. Did I accidentally remove my replacement? Yeah. Okay, so we gotta do that. Okay, and then we're just gonna come back over to the executor, put it back. Let's see. Success. Done. Done, 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 done. Then why do you not see the recorder in your base class? Because you should have it. Oh, because I called it test recorder. Dial that down. Now you should be happy. Now you see it. Now we compile. And then it should just work. Oh. Unreachable code detected. Really? Really? Yeah, of course it's unreachable. And then, oh. Change a variable, change it in all places, not in one. That's what I get for not using refactoring. Okay. So, let's test it. Let's test it. Okay. We're going to pop you out and close you because I don't really want you, but I still want you docked. So you stay there. You go away, Copilot. You can wait your turn for a minute. We're going to expand this out, and I don't really care what we pick on. We'll do a button test. Outline button test. Great. We're going to run this. It may load on the screen. Good. Passed. Okay, so it's clearly the starting of the process and all of that stuff is gone in. And now I want to make this test arbitrarily fail. That way, let's see, is not equal to, because I want to see it generate an image for me as well and make sure that that works the way I expect. Align border can be overwritten. Oh, I changed the wrong test. Let's see. Victor, sorry caught me as I had to take care of something in response to 3D avidly. I started what I probably have is a lot more uncharted depth compared to learning enough. You need basics to get things going, but I can send you what I have to make a decision. Yeah, that would be convenient because like I said, I feel like Unity is a sledgehammer that I don't need. Unnecessary assignment. Why are we getting this? Why are we getting that value if we aren't using it? I have a strange suspicion that it was copied from the test above and was never used, which is unfortunately very common. Okay, run test, and I want to see a screenshot get generated. That would be happy path. So test failure. We expect red. Good. Assertion expected brush equal to, but was not. Blah, blah, blah. Did the thing. We see all of our logging that made it through, which was great. I am surprised I don't log out where screenshots are stored to. Should probably add that. That's something that XAML test should probably be logging. But as the author, I am familiar with where it is. In cross-platform, do we need Android and iOS too? Yeah, so the key platforms are, well, actually, I think so Android, iOS, yes, and then both Mac and Windows. The the desktop side, it's going to be slightly different apps on mobile than what we have on the desktop. So I may end up actually making two separate apps, but I have the need for doing the 3D animation on both. But I think there's going to be enough differences between the mobile side, what we want to do on mobile and what we want to do on desktop, that I may just spin two separate apps because I don't know that it's worth having all of them together. Okay, debug, net 10, and then it should have been here, I thought. Screenshots. Looking to see where I put them. Oh. Why is it? Oh. So there's two problems here. There's two problems. And one is self-inflicted. Why the heck is this on net 9? Oh, because I never revved anything up. Because when I tried to rev it up, it didn't work. Oh, because my net 10 branch is still sitting there. That's why this is on net 9. So this one could go net 10. This one could. It's just the core library that I can't rev yet because of the stupid attached property limitation. Okay, so the short version, I'm looking in the wrong directory. I should have gone debug net 9, not net 10. And then the other one that I'm going to point out is, you'll note it put it in a folder called XAML test executor. The reason for that is I am abusing, or I should say test recorder, its constructor actually has more than one parameter, and it's abusing this caller file path and caller member name. So it's using these to get out useful information about where the files are located. And so creating this guy outside of the test is mildly interesting because that's going to bite me. What does the file path get used for? Assembly name, directory. Yeah, so it's all just pulling the directory information to figure out where to put that. But I think we can get away with doing this slightly differently, because I think our test context actually comes with plenty of information to do this with. Test details and where, because we can cheat big time. Source generator class information. If it's not already in here, what we can do is we can go and add it. Yeah, I don't see it. I'm gonna do one debug statement here real quick, just to confirm that I don't see it inside the test details anywhere. Because I think what we can do is we can actually do the caller stuff inside of the test base, I believe. And well, can we? We'll see. I may be speaking too quickly. Let's see, test details, and then I am looking for let's see, test class. Let's see, there's the assembly, the name namespace. I think we might be, I might just need to go and give myself an extra constructor here or abuse it otherwise. Because the other thing we can do is it's only using it to build up this sort of information. Just checking to see if because the file name is the one thing that I can't get by looking at reflection-based information. because that is very much gone by the time. Oh, test file path. Test line number. It's right there. TUnit, you make my life way too easy. You make my life way too freaking easy. Let's see. Caller file path is going to be context, test details, test file path. And then unit test method is going to be context, test details, test method, because I think because that is just wanting the caller member name, so it just wants the unit test method name. So bippity boppity booyah. Okay, so normally you don't do this and you let the source or the compiler inject these, because these caller attributes are actually nice little magical ones. I've been finding more and more usages for them. So caller member name is already useful in WPF as an easy way for knowing the property name when you're inside of a getter or a setter, because it will automatically get populated with the property's name. For I notify property changed, it's gold. Right, wonderful. Not as needed with the MVVM toolkit because their source generators also handle it for you, but still very cool. And then there's caller file path, and then I think caller line number is the other one, which are typically only really leveraged in like logging frameworks because they're kind of nice at times to be able to know where these are. But you'll note these things default to empty string. What happens is at compile time, any invocation of this constructor, the compiler injects this data at compile time. Emphasis on at compile time, which is why it's not overly helpful in a lot of cases outside of like logging, because the path, like say this is run and compiled on a GitHub action, that file path is not overly helpful in a lot of cases. It sometimes is. For like logging purposes, it certainly could be. And the caller member, again, also useful, but because they aren't reflection based, they're compile time based, they're fixed. They're just literal string constants all the way in there, which is really slick. But because TUnit is awesome, they give us that information right there. And I would be not surprised to find that TUnit probably leverages those same attributes to get that same data. Look at you go, TUnit. You're so wonderful. You've thought of the things that I need before I needed them. So now when I go and look, what I expect to see is not a screenshot here, but I expect to see this guy down here. So let's actually blow away the whole screenshots directory. I just want to make sure I'm not getting more than what I bargained for. Where'd they go? Hello? Okay. Just had F5. Whoo! Scared me for a minute. Buttons, outline button tests. Outline button border can be overwritten. Screenshot number 1. We can open it. Huzzah, it's taking a screenshot. You'll also note it takes a screenshot of the whole screen. At some point, I want to get it to screenshot just the window. I actually had problems getting that to work properly in all use cases with needing to handle different DPIs because you have to get the right coordinates of the screen to crop it down to it. And it was mildly fun to screenshot the whole window, but I do want to add an option to XAML test at some point to scope that down. Great. That looks like success to me. So we are going to, nope. Is equal to, and now the test should pass. And we will go through and push this, because I assume our diff is about to look real fun. So massive cleanup. Yeah, thank you. Do your thing. So we're going to just briefly kind of scan through all these. Lots of deletions. I wonder, it would be kind of helpful to see the how some diff tools show you the plus minus for the diff. I could see that being helpful. I will speak to someone about it. Chris. Though I do wonder if it makes the UI more cluttered. Thinking. Because there are times where being able to see the plus minus on a file, like on a lot of these, if I see any pluses, it immediately is a red flag. And I'm just kind of briefly scrolling to make sure that my deletions are paired appropriately. But in this case, I could probably guess just based upon if the line number deletion count matched up with my expectations. The only thing is it is a little variable, I'm noticing. Sometimes it deleted 3, sometimes it deleted 4, just depending on how much white space was there around it. So the exact line number count may not be as helpful as I thought. Yeah, like in this case here, it multiple blank lines got deleted with it, which means good regex, but means the actual number of deletions is variable. Okay, that goes there, that goes there, goes there, that goes there, that goes there, goes there, that goes there, that goes there. Okay, and then so much deletion. Oh, leave that for a moment because we may need to go back and do something about that test. I may want to actually get it working properly just to make sure that it does what I expect. I apologize for everybody who thinks I'm scrolling very fast. I am scrolling very fast. It's just a matter of trying to get through it. This is the boring part. I wonder if this commit's going to be too big to generate a commit message for. Probably not. There's a lot of files, but it's not that many actual things in here. Let's see. That goes there. That goes there. That gets cleaned up. That goes like that. That goes like that. Just that theme test there. Text field default height test. I'm just noticing that this guy doesn't look to be in the right folder. Let's see here. Text field default height tests. I am just trying. I see why it's not in there because it hits a bunch of different classes. Okay. Okay, we'll leave it out. Okay, so let's go look at these theme tests because that's the last one on here. Let's see, theme tests. Okay, so let's get rid of this and then let's actually look at what this needed to do. So it leveraged the initialization that was in the base before. So remember the base class would start up the app. Let's see. Bundled panel, so it calls initialize with the bundled theme color. And then this does a matrix of light and dark, and then all of the primary and all of the secondary colors to make sure that this guy here renders the appropriate themes inside of all of them. Which is good. I am kind of questioning, because I think I wrote this test, and I'm questioning the value of said test. So if I just run this, and actually, we don't need to do skip anymore. I forgot. Again, TUnit. It has an explicit one, right? And so you can set tests as explicit. And actually, maybe I'll look for skip. Because I'm willing to bet most of the places where we have skip, showing more than 1,000. Oh, right. Because I had regex turned on. Yeah, that's not going to work. Try again. Oh, is that really? No. There we go. So all of these ones here that are explicit. Does explicit take a string? Oh, it does. TUnit. You make me so happy. Oh, but it's not. Yeah, so the string here is not the same. So explicit in TUnit, these tests will only run when they are explicitly part of a filter that is all labeled explicit. So it kind of works the way you would expect, which is wonderful. This one I think is legit skip. Need XAML test 1.3 or later. Don't we have that now? Did I not? Hang on. Do I not have XAML test? I should be able to turn this off. Right? You should now just work. Let's run this. Hands off the keyboard. Not touchy. No touchy. Fails. Is there a PR or something for it? I'm going to leave that as skip as well because I might need to look into why. That one is a legit change from MTP, and those ones don't matter. So, but these other ones for like the theme test where you only want them run when you explicitly run them, you can now label them as explicit. Okay, so this XAML panel comes in. It also wants to call initialize. So functionally, it wants to be able to call initialize twice. I'm just wondering if really what I want to do is not... Because I realize this calls get colors, and it's disposing and reinitializing, but there's no reason we need to do it that way. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the better way to write this test is what we need is we need to be able to share this bit of code here in two places. All right, so we're going to go down here and we will do public static iapp start app or something of that nature. I don't know. Right? And that's going to go there. And we are going to do, I guess we can do this. We don't do the await using. We do return this. Return async task. And actually, we could just return task and drop the async. And then we need that there. And then I need we have the writer here. Where are you leveraged? Right there. So this guy here already has the current task context. So we could just do this. We don't need to do anything fancy. Oh, this needs to be output.writeLine. That'll have that in there. So now what we do is we just share this in two places. Right, so this guy goes away and he becomes this, and we do test base start app, and then over in the theme test where we want to do this, we end up doing this exact same line because this guy wants to test it with a separate app. So, but we are a test base, so we start up a second app that we do the work with. And I'm just trying to decide, do any of these things... This guy calls get colors. Get resource color. I'm just worried if something here is... So this is all we need to change out. Is this guy needs to take in an iapp. So I think this is all we end up changing. Is we go like this. We go static. I know it says 99 references, but that feels really, 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 really wrong. And get colors, I'm going to make take in an iapp. And then in each place, I'm just going to pass it through. That way I can tell the difference between which one I'm doing. So this one here is going to use the base one. Right? And then this one here is going to use the second one that we start. And then it just works, right? And now I just have to deal with, because this is an assertion, get brush names. Let's see, get brush resource names. Where is this going? So this is just a generated set of strings. So there's nothing in there. Oh, that's why there's 99 plus. Okay, it's because it's in the generated half of this file. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll make an overload here in a moment so that the generated ones are happy. But I wanna fix all of these ones in here first. So change the comment to be set up second app instance to compare against. Right, so that goes there, and then that does that. That does that. I just want to make sure I haven't missed anything because initialize is the next one where we need to have an override here because this thing is using capital app. And I think all we're going to do is we're just going to do this. I'm going to go copy, paste, and then I am going to do app, and then to avoid breaking everything, I'm going to do that. That way, everyone else who wants to call it without passing it can continue to work. Fat, dumb, and happy. And then get XAML wrap panel. Wonder why that's partial. Not gonna worry about it. So then this initialize just needs to pass in app instead. And now it just works. And I'm going to be explicit up here for this one. I'm not going to go change any of the other ones, but I think this one, because this test is spinning too, that's important. And then we have the get resource color here that we need to apply the same treatment to. This guy here, because we could go change the thing that's generating that on the other side because it's just a command line app. But I think it's probably just as easy to come in here and do basically what we did before of get resource color app name. Call that a day. Oh, this can't be static because it needs to access app. Let's see. This is an async method, blah, blah, blah. Get rid of that. And then I realize it's grayed out as though it's unused, but the source generator problem should be handled. Okay. Okay, so that compiles. Let's make sure that this test passes. I suspect it's actually a longer test to execute given the thingy-mabobber, but we'll see. It may just immediately fail out. I should have probably put this move you to the side. Where are you? Because there's, let's see, how many permutations? My suspicion is a lot. 680. Yeah, so that's why we didn't just blindly include it. Because there's 680 of these suckers. And it appears to be hung. Okay. So let's kill it. I wonder if that dispose call was critical on the previous implementation. We're going to go here. Where did my test explorer go? Test explorer. Where'd you go? Oh, you're still running. That's why. Okay, so we're going to grab one of these, and we're just going to run one of them. We're going to see... We should launch. We should hit that breakpoint. Okay, and I'm going to step. Oh. This is interesting. We can't actually spin a second instance, can we? And so the reason I'm saying that is because XAML test uses the process ID of the test project as a way of linking the two together. So it doesn't allow two separate ones to interact with each other. That is a problem. It is very much a problem for this. Should we fix this in XAML test or should we fix it here? I probably should allow XAML test some mechanism for being able to control that. So it's right here in this start remote. So you'll note it comes in here and it sets up all of these arguments that's going to pass in. And you'll note one of them is process ID, right? And I've left myself no hooks to control this behavior, because then on the other side of XAML test, when it's invoked and this process is started, because it actually runs XAML test.exe, that's a WPF app that launches. It looks at its command line arguments and goes, I connect to a named pipe over with this process ID. Well, the problem is that named pipe is currently being held onto by the first running application. It would be nice if this allowed for some additional suffix to be passed here. I think on the app options is probably where I do it. Additional suffix to be able to start two process. Screw it. We're just going to do it right now. Oh, I'm going to scope creep. Kevin, stop it. I can't help it. Can't help myself. It's just, it's too addicting. And then let's launch here, because I think we should be able to do this fairly easily. This is not something. Oh, we haven't even upgraded this to an SLNX. Nope, not scope creeping. So let's see. Let's do something like public string connection ID. And we should probably put some XML docs. Typically, a process can only start a single XAML test app. If you need to start multiple, you must specify unique connection IDs. Okay. Great. So we'll do that there. And then what we need to do is leverage this on the app. So when it comes down here, this is doing an argumentless process ID. I think what we do is we do \quote, and then we do options.connection ID. Because on a null, this will evaluate to an empty string and be no different. And we wrap it in quotes because otherwise, if these connections ID have spaces in them, that causes pain and suffering. And we do not like pain and suffering. Okay, so now we need to grab it where the server starts. Pipe prefix. Because I want to grab, because this is the server on the XAML test app, but we need it to leverage that argument when it goes to connect, right? Because it does the start and then it does pipe prefix plus process ID. I'm thinking, because these named pipe channels is really where we need to do this, and I'm trying to decide where it should go. Because right now it's just xamltest.communicationpipe.processID. Why is this a problem? Because the process ID here is going to be, oh, it's singleton app lock. Why the heck do I have this? Why do I restrict? That's what it's blocked on. Because the process ID isn't of the unit test process. The process ID is the XAML test process. Because it sets up a process. Every process on the system has to be unique. Why do I have this? Why do I even have this? Singleton app lock. Why? And I create it at the top level. What are you used for? There's only 2 usages of it. And it gets released when the app is disposed. So it does ensure that there's only a singleton instance. Because it does mean that this thing waits. But why? Like, I get that I don't want 2 things started at the same time. But I feel like this is not something I actually... Okay. So this might be a simpler thing to implement than I thought. We might just scrap this guy. We'll get rid of that. Why did I don't need that. And then we just burn that to the ground, right? I think that's what we do. I think that is what we do. Okay, so that guy's gone. That guy's gone. Where is the singleton app lock? You go away there. We go inside an app and we get rid of this semaphore. And then we get rid of this, and that goes away. And what are you wanting to do? Promote to a primary constructor? Sure, we can primary constructor that. And then we get rid of you. And then there should just be one usage of you. I don't even know why I had that public. It was only used in the one place. I don't know why I put that in. I must have put it in for the idea of preventing test frameworks. If the cleanup was, like, I wonder if there was an issue where test frameworks would run the cleanup while another test was starting. And I was working around that. But I don't know that I should ever fix that inside of XAML test itself. Like that doesn't feel like the place to fix it. So Test Explorer. Go ahead and run it. And then why have I not revved this to net 10 yet? Have I tried to rev this to net 10? Okay, we might just be kicking an update here real quick. Problem solved. So I don't think this is problematic to update. I'm trying to remember how many tests I have in here. May have just failed a test by clicking the mouse. Well, we're only doing one framework, so that's not a bad thing. Two failed. But I don't think any of these are related to Yeah, because this library was primarily built 168 tests. Well, these are actually the tests on XAML tests, not on material design. There's a handful in here that I think are source gen. So I may actually kill this real quick and expand it because I think I want to limit myself. Yeah. 123. I want to see the 123 pass because the other ones are just generated against the WPF classes themselves. And so I just don't care. Though again, if I convert this thing to TUnit, because it has the ability to, like, I don't have to pre-gen the tests. That's the cool part about being able to dynamically add tests, is you can actually have a test that adds all the tests that you want. You don't have to like source generator it. So it's a much lower bar for entry to get some very dynamic level testing. And again, it's one of those, I think that's a unique-ish feature to TUnit. I'm not aware of how I would do that. Like most other testing frameworks expect to know all of the tests at the end of the compile. They don't let you dynamically add tests to the test suite while the test suite is running. So I think that's unique. Okay, so we're going to go here. That looks fine. Let's just check it. So this is probably good. We can discard this change because it's meaningless. Let's see here. And we're going to call this be remove singleton lock because I do not remember why that was there, and it's clearly not needed for my own test suite. Commit change. That goes there. Push, submit, and then do a better looking PR description for me. Great. There we go. Rock and roll. Okay, so we'll let that guy go. Enable auto merge, enable auto merge. Okay, well, this is thinking about itself. I want to look at why I didn't rev this thing up to latest stuff. Is there a reason to not do this? I think I would like to make all of the things that still needs to be net standard, but I think I want to just change all the net 8s to net 10s and be happier. Yeah, sure. I'm sure you have a problem, Visual Studio. I don't doubt I have just confused the living daylights out of you. Lang version 14. All those things get bumped. That gets bumped. We're going to just manage NuGet packages because I saw that Dependabot had a build out there as well. Means there's at least one thing in this updates list. Come on, go find it. Yeah, grab them all. Yeah, go ahead and fix it. And I assume the installed warning is probably the pinvoke one. I'll just confirm that real quick. At some point, I'm going to go through and fix it. Oh, it may have... Nope, it came back. Gone away. Yeah, I assume you're the pinvoke one. Where it's not a vulnerable package. It's complaining about deprecation. Because this package is deprecated. They want you to use the new source generated version. Great, fine, whatever. Right, so is there any reason not to do this? See, my global.json probably, nope, that doesn't need to change. My build needs to change. Include 10x. Test net 10. Let's see here. env configuration. Where is... Wait a minute. Where is this configuration coming in from? Environment configuration. Oh, I just need to change this to a 10. There we go. Check out V6's latest. Ah, thank you. Why is my Dependabot not flagging? It must just be slow. Or maybe that's the dependent bot. No, it's flagging system command line. .net. Oh, not .net. Did I miss something? I don't know if I missed something, JC. Let me know. I think I caught what you were saying. Because it should be GitHub Actions. And it may just be if that's revved within the last week. And then I don't think anything else really needs to change too much. I would like to let's go here. .net SLN migrate, I think is what it is. There we go. And then we close this. You changed .net rather than checkout. Ah, thank you. And then I relaunch here. So Control Shift E relaunches Visual Studio. I probably could have just bounced out to file mode. But now I should have an SLN and an SLNX. We torch the SLN. Open the SLNX. Bippity boppity booyah. We go in and we fix the GitHub one that I clearly was too dumb. Let's see. You change .net rather than checkout. V6. Oh, is this is the one that I may have bumped accidentally? Now that you mention it, let's just check which version is latest on this guy too. GitHub.com. V5. Okay. Yep, you were right. I did botch that one. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so that guy should be good there. 10.9, 10.9. Just make sure he builds and runs locally. I don't see why. Oh, that's why. That's why I didn't do it. Because the moment you rev those NuGet packages, you have to address the source generator problem. Okay. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's discard. Those are all fine to keep. That's fine to keep. That's fine to keep. Okay. Because at some point I do need to go through and clean up these source generators. And I think I had done that on one of these branches. Yeah, updating generators. Yeah. No. Generator test project. That's not quite it. I got too many things checked out. And I do have a bunch of dependent bots sitting out there, so maybe dependent bot was doing its job and I was just ignoring it. Let's see, pull requests. Yeah, there's a bunch of dependent bot PRs. So this will clear a bunch of those out. Okay. Great, that merged. Latest full release at some point. Yeah, so I did that here. Is I now picked up the 201. So anybody who didn't notice, System Command Line did GA. They skipped V1 and went straight to V2. Couldn't tell you why. It's a different team running the show now for it. And I was pleasantly surprised to see them push a couple updates after it went through. My understanding is they're just looking to have something stable. There was a push to get it into the BCL, and then after all the layoffs and the reorgs, that kind of got pushed to the wayside. And some of the more breaking changes that came in the latest betas got reverted, and they went back to a more kind of stable, well-accepted version, which I think was a good call. And then they just released that, right? There was a handful of tests and small issues that were known with it that they just cleaned up or backported the fixes for, and then released it. So it is out. It is stable. Let me make sure this thing builds now. Yeah, so this guy here is going to be, speaking of which, but I think most of this is pretty close because it's not get value for argument. I think it's just get value now. Yeah. So there's a handful of these types of changes and they aren't actually that bad to do. And frankly, I think if I let Copilot do it, there was another project I had where Copilot just ate it for breakfast and did the migration for me. Like if you have the word CLI in front of argument, option, and command, just back off and get rid of it. You don't need it anymore. We can do collection initializer on that guy. Now that we have newer syntax stuff, let's build. Yeah, we'll just leave the source generators off for the moment. Class cleanup behavior. Oh, because I revved my MS test build. What is going on here? This is not okay. We're gonna relaunch Visual Studio because I'm gonna assume one of those errors that it ran into caused it to lose its mind. I did also, if you're watching my templates, JC, I don't think I kicked a full release of it yet, but I did rev my .NET template for CLI stuff to the latest system command line. So it may not be in a published version of my templates yet, because I've got an Aspire template I'm working on getting wrapped up in there, but I did rev all of my things in there to use it. Maybe I should go change, because I think some of my projects have tests on and default to XUnit. Maybe I should go switch those to TUnit. Okay. Why are you... This is only happening in net 10. This is only happening in net 10 and not in net 9. That doesn't leave me a lot of warm, fuzzy feelings. Well, this one I think is, let's see. This one is just a switch to an assert throws. Right, because this one they deleted the expected exception, so that I kind of get. Exception. That should be the last. Okay. Let's see. Assert throws async. Thank you, Copilot. You did a useful. I won't make fun of you quite as much now. Still a little bit. Okay, so that gets there. What is the... Because these are also net 9. Class cleanup behavior. I don't want you throwing... Yeah, there you go. Where is class cleanup? What do you have here? Inheritance behavior. Before each derived class. Oh, I see. Yeah, that's probably what we want there. So let's copy that because I have a feeling what we're going to do is we are going to search, paste, replace all, and get those all done. File. Found similar code in public repos. Yeah, no freaking duh, Copilot. No duh. I don't doubt that there's a lot of people that have made this change. Okay. Something is holding on to extra classes, and I might just need to get clean or something to torch them. I just want to see the new errors. Okay, we're going to just get rid of this. Inheritance behavior is ambiguous reference between what? What is your problem here? Visual Studio test tools and system Windows inheritance behavior. Oh, you jerk. You jerk. So the first one I did, it must have injected a using for me. And then, where's the using? I'm somewhat tempted to go just add that using at the top level. Let's just do that, I think. Because this thing, why is this not squawking about this one? This one had understood which one I wanted. So, which one of you is problematic? So, this is inside of date picker. Oh, so these are all inside of the generated test. So my generator is generating bad code. That's the problem. So I fixed the, okay. So I need to go find a unit test generator and fix it up. Let's see. Unit test generator. And I need you to stop doing that and have you instead do, oh, that's not it. I need you to do this instead. It seems to have fixed it though. Oh, but it doesn't have the same usings up at the top because it is also include. Oh, so because that is causing. Got it. That's why it's so confused. So what I should probably do is fully qualify the enum name on the generator. And then we rebuild the generator first. And then we rebuild everything else. That probably cleans up a whole mess of those. Okay, so let's do that. Let's rebuild, and then I want to look at the output window to see. I'm not trusting my error window right now. It seems to be lying. Number is significantly smaller. And I think it is only because this guy needs to be in there. So let's do this. Put you in my find window. All right, moving you to the side just for a second so I can grab you. Put you into my replace half of the window. And then, stop it. You are not helping. Be small. Okay, replace all. Great. Now, see if we build appropriately. I'm somewhat tempted to do a global using in my MS or in my CS proj. Assert does not contain for throws exception async. Assert throws async. So let's see here. Exception async. So this guy here should be replaced with throws async. And then replace all. Thanks. What else you got for me? What else you got for me, Microsoft? That it? Build pass. Okay, so that got me there. We're going to go back to our test window real quick because the proof is in the pudding. If our basic tests pass, we should be just fine. That is my theory. And I apologize. Now they're back on this. Now they're over there. It can't decide which monitor it wants to be on, so it's invoking them all over the place. As long as these 123 pass, if anybody has severe reactions to flashing lights, look away now. Because this should just work. I contemplated changing the test framework on this project as well, but I'm a little hesitant because I actually kind of like it being on a different test framework than the material design project, just so I get a little bit of test coverage. Okay, so that's probably good. Okay, so we're gonna do this. We're gonna jump up to master real quick. Yep. Pop that sucker right off the stack. New branch, net 10. Push that in, gen the things. And then there you go. Commit changes. Push, submit. And then this should go out, and then the material design project will pick it up, and world will be a happy place again. And then this should also kill off a bunch of the Dependabot PRs and let them all die as well. And then I just need to deal with the MCP and the versioning, and we'll be off to the races. We will be off to the races. I am somewhat dragging my feet on the MCP because I've got a second MCP server I'm playing with that I want to do as well. Let's see here. I don't think there was a relevant change here, so we're going to take this side of the equation. Trying to see what the change was, and it must have been white space because I'm not seeing anything significance there. Let's see. So I want actually, yeah, we'll go here and then we'll go here. Save that in, continue rebase. There we go. We'll push the MCP up. Then we'll get that going. There are untaped changes to the solution. Discard. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I kind of know what you're talking about, but it's part of it is it's unhappy because this one is changing from an SLN to an SLNX. And so Visual Studio's like, my file disappeared. It's like, yeah, I deleted it. I did just realize one thing I did not check is, are there any references to .sln in... Okay, good. Because if you have any references to SLN in your pipeline, you need to go rev them to SLNX. I think at this point, I'm not aware of any library out there that is limited in their SLNX support. There was a handful of small stragglers that didn't have support for it right away, but at this point, I'm not aware of any. I don't doubt there's probably still some that are out there, but nothing that I use regularly doesn't have SLNX support. The only reason you might not be able to use it is if you're targeting an older .NET SDK that doesn't support it, because I think you have to have like 9.0.200 or something like that to have support for it. So if you are, for whatever reason, forced to use an older .NET SDK, you might not be able to go to the SLNX yet. But most people, it's as simple as what you saw me do on the terminal. You literally just run .NET SLN migrate, and it creates a file side by side, right? So you can compare it. But the key thing here is the SLNX, it just looks pretty, right? Like, just like how the CS proj used to be big and ugly, and then we got this nice XML format for all of our MS Build stuff. The solution file was the last holdout of ugly, and so now we have something like this. It's not perfect. This isn't like a full MS Buildy file, Like there's a handful of things that I wish it would do with like globbing and otherwise, but significant improvement. Significant improvement. Because more importantly, now when you like add a new project, you no longer have those really ugly merge conflicts with GUIDs all over the place that always annoyed me. You don't have things like, oh, somebody revved their Visual Studio version, so that's going to cause the solution file change. Obviously, that's not an issue anymore either. Like all of those kind of problems just kind of disappear, which I think is awesome. I think that is awesome. Okay, so let's go out here. Let's bump this sucker on up. We're going to enable auto merge, and then I'm trying to remember what my publish procedure is on this. Do I make a tag or do I rev a version? So I make a tag starting with V, and that's my publish. So, okay, cool. I need to come up with... I do publishing of packages in a couple different ways, and I have not found a consistent way that I think is perfect in all cases. Because sometimes I push a tag, because I usually want to tag my releases. Sometimes I push a branch. Sometimes I change something in a local file and push that up. I haven't decided what the quote-unquote best way is to do it. Like I want to be able to kick releases, and I need something. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the something is. There's enough stuff for auto versioning the assembly. It's just what's the trigger for kicking it is a little bit up for debate. So, anyway. Well, it is about 11:30 for me, and I'm going to try to not burn myself completely out. We'll see how things go. But I think this got a good chunk of the way in. There will probably be a couple PRs going out because I'm going to get a branch pushed out for the TUnit stuff on the material design stuff. In fact, here, let me do this real quick. We'll get my big head out of the way. We will take what we have here, and I will push this branch up in case anybody wants to see it. But I think what I will do is I will kick a XAML test release live. And then once that's out there, sorry, I saw TUnit improvements and I thought that capital I was lowercase l. That's out there, but I will wait to open up the PR until it actually passes. It would probably pass pipeline right now because the testing question is an explicitly flagged one, and so it's not going to fail the pipeline, but I kind of want it to work locally for me before I get too carried away and push it up. Otherwise, I know me, I'll forget about it and move right along. So we'll get that plugged in, get it rocking and rolling. Nikolai, if you're watching, I do want to go back and get your tab control one merged in, so we'll take a look at that as well. And I'll see if I can get to that this week. It may end up being after my presentation next Tuesday. Oh, shameless plug. Shameless plug for anybody who showed up late. For anybody interested, we are doing a .NET Conf, just like Microsoft's .NET Conf. They have a bunch of local events. We are doing one here in Spokane, Washington. You are welcome to join virtually if you are not local to the area. If you are local, we're doing food and whatnot, so we have a small fee for food and things. But if you just want to listen in, feel free to register as a virtual attendee, and you'll get the live link and be able to ask questions and that kind of thing. Or if you are interested, you can check out the local .NET Conf events. There are tons of them, and there is potentially one near you. So you feel free to find those and see. They're all going to be really focused on a lot of the topics that were covered at .NET Conf, and so it isn't just .NET. Like on our event, we've got some machine learning and Python and otherwise, so it like very much like not completely in .NET exactly, because .NET is a little more than just C#, right? There's a lot more stuff that comes in it, and then some Visual Studio, some Aspire, some Copilot. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. So with that, I will tell everybody thank you for coming. We'll see everybody next time. Happy coding.